My dear students, in this video, we will take a quick look at the story The Happy Prince. The story The Happy Prince is a poignant and touching story of the statue of a prince and a little swallow that gives up its life to be with the prince. It is a story of kindness, friendship, and selfless loyalty. The statue of the prince was erected on a tall column. The prince was gilded with thin leaves of gold. He had sapphires for eyes and a ruby on his sword hilt. One day, a swallow alighted near his feet. He was on his way to Egypt to escape the cold winter. All his friends had already gone to Egypt. As the swallow settled down to sleep, teardrops fell on him. He saw that the eyes of the prince's statue were filled with tears. When the swallow asked him why he wept, the statue replied that when he was alive, he lived in the palace and knew nothing of sorrow. He was always happy and was called the Happy Prince. Now that he was dead, his statue had been placed on a tall column from where he could see the ugliness and misery of his city. Although his heart was made of lead, he felt for the suffering of the people and wept. The happy prince told the bird that far away he could see a poor seamstress embroidering a dress for a rich lady, while her child lay sick and hungry, asking for an orange. He told the swallow to pick out the ruby from his sword hilt and take it to the seamstress. The swallow wanted to go to Egypt, but the prince looked so sad that he agreed to stay that night and deliver the ruby to the poor woman. The next day, the swallow saw all the monuments in the city, and when evening fell, he came to the prince before flying to Egypt. The prince begged him to stay one more night. He said that far away he could see a young playwright in a garret. He had to finish a play, but was faint with hunger and too cold to write. The prince was full of pity for the man and asked the swallow to pluck out one of his eyes that were made of rare sapphires and take it to the poor playwright. The swallow did so, and the playwright was filled with new hope and energy. On the third day, the swallow spent time at the harbor watching the sailors. When he came to say goodbye to the prince asked him to stay one more day. He said that he could see a poor little girl who had dropped her matchsticks in the gutter. He said that her father would beat her if she did not bring home some money. The prince asked the swallow to pluck out his remaining eye and give it to the little girl. The swallow did what the prince asked. Now that the prince was blind, the swallow decided that he would not leave for Egypt but stay with him always. The next day, the swallow sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. The prince then asked the swallow to fly over the city and tell him what he saw. The swallow flew over the city and saw how the rich were enjoying themselves while the poor suffered. When he told the prince what he had seen, the prince asked him to remove his gold leaves one by one and give them to the poor. Winter came, and with it came the snow and frost. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he did not leave the prince, whom he loved so much. At last he knew his end was near. He kissed the prince and fell down dead at his feet. At that very moment, the leaden heart of the prince's statue too snapped into two. Next morning, when the mayor saw the statue, he noted how shabby it looked. The statue was no longer golden. The eyes were gone, and the ruby seemed to have fallen off the sword. He saw the dead bird at the prince's feet and was annoyed by the sight. The statue of the prince was pulled down and melted in the furnace. When the workmen in the foundry found that the leaden heart of the statue did not melt, they threw it away on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. After that, one day, God asked one of his angels to bring two most precious things from the city. The angel brought the lead heart and the bird to God. God appreciated his choice. He added that the bird would sing forever in his garden of paradise, and the happy prince would stay in his golden city and admire him forever. My dear students, you can understand that because of the good deed of the bird and the statue that God took such a decision. Although the people living in the city could not realize their worth, but God and the angels in heaven understood their worth, and so they both were rewarded. And so God and the angels considered them the most precious things in the city. I hope, students, you have all understood the story so far. Here we come to an end. Keep reading. Until then, goodbye. Have a nice day.